Aetherdrift's on its way. Vroom vroom.
Waffles in the morning, syrup sweet and slow. Golden stacks are rising, sunrise in the glow. Sticky choice so grand, breakfast on demand. Smile and take my hand in waffle wonderland.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Wafflecast. So this one is going to be a long one. So strap yourselves in, get ready to hit max speed, and let's look at some Aetherdrift. Wow, this is hard to say, isn't it? Anyways, probably going to fuck up a couple times in this. But we're going to go over some of the cards that I think they're going to be most impactful in Standard. So I like to do this for Standard only because I don't see a whole lot of cards impacting other formats, but there are some in this one that I do see that might impact Pioneer and Modern, and I will do that in a separate video. Today, we're going to talk about Standard. So let's just jump into it because there's a lot to do and a lot to talk about. So the first card we're going to talk about is Perilous Snare. It's a 2 and 1 white, so 3 mana. Start your engine, so it gives you 1 max speed, or 1 towards max speed. If you don't already have any speed, you get 1. When this artifact enters, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until this artifact leaves the battlefield. So it's basically an Oblivion Ring in artifact form. But if you have max speed, you can tap it to put a 1/1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control. Yes, you have to activate it at sorcery speed, but it's still really good, in my opinion, to have this exiling effect that can also pump your creatures once you get to max speed. Aggressive strategies are definitely going to love this because they can, pop in for that damage, just start building up the speed, and then just start building up their creatures. All right, so the next one, it's white. So if you notice, I do when I do the colors, I'm doing 1 rare and then 1 common or uncommon that I think is going to see. Because we've been seeing a lot of commons and uncommons that are doing really well in Standard. God, why am I blanking on them right now? The Sheltered by Ghost, the one that flashes in, the black one, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it does, it's an uncommon as well from Duskmourn. There's been a lot of good uncommons recently. So Tune-Up is definitely one that I can see. It is a white reanimation spell for artifacts. And this could be really, really good with some of the artifacts that are coming out. It specifically only targets artifacts, but there are artifact creatures, vehicles, all of that. So return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If it's a vehicle, it becomes an artifact creature, which is really good. So it stays that. It doesn't just stay a vehicle. It now is an artifact creature permanently, which is really good. All right, so we'll move into blue here. Now, I had a hard time with blue for the rare, just because it seems like there wasn't anything really good in my opinion, but I could be completely wrong. This was the only good one I saw. It reminds me of Wilderness Reclamation, but only you don't get your lands, you get your permanents. So Unstoppable Plan is 2 and a white enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, untap all non-land permanents you control. I think that's really powerful. With all these artifacts that are coming in that make colors or do things, everything but your lands untap. If you're aggressive strategy, boom, you attack and now you untap. Or if you're a control matchup and you want to get some damage in and then untap to be able to block, it can be really good as well. Also, utilizing certain tap effects over and over. Now for blue, obviously Spell Pierce coming back is really good, but I think this card, Diversion Unit, 1 in a blue, a 2/1 flyer, an artifact creature flyer that you can sacrifice to basically pay 1 and sacrifice it to counter an instant sorcery unless they pay 3 mana. So it's a Spell Pierce on a creature with a little bit more tax. I think it's really good for an uncommon, and it's definitely going to see play in hyper-aggressive strategies, and possibly come in for mirror control matchups. You have that damage that can get in easy, and you can fight with a counter spell on board. Yeah, they're going to see it, but they still got to respect it. All right, for black, I feel like there was a couple cards that could have been, but this one really stood out to me. The Speed Demon. 3 and a double black, legendary demon, flying trample, 5/5. So that right there is decent. right? And then you have start your engine. So you start off at 1 if you don't already have anything. At the beginning of your end step, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is your speed. So this thing comes in, puts you to 1. If you attack, you're up to 2. And then you get to draw 2, lose 2. Like, that's a pretty good trade-off, drawing extra cards there. So I think this one's dope. And then if you have an Unholy Annex out, you're going to cancel out at the 2 because you're going to gain the 2 for having a demon and then draw 3 cards at speed 2. That just seems nuts, in my opinion. So that's why I feel like this is definitely going to see some play. We already see tons of demons in play. You got the Excruciator Demon. You have the Archfiend of Dross. You've got the Bloodletter. Like, demons are becoming an archetype really quickly. Now, for this one, I chose a common because this common seems absolutely nuts. Because you can cast it for 1 black as a 5/4 if you meet the conditions. And that just seems insane to me with no drawback. So it's Chithian Gravestalker for 5 and a black. But this spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact and or creature card in your graveyard. And you can cycle it for 2. So early game, you could cycle it to fuel the later Gravestalkers. Or if you draw this late game, it's a 1 mana 5/4. Like, that's insane. I think this is absolutely bonkers for a common. Like, back in the day of Shivan Dragons, this would have been a rare. This thing's really good. I think it's definitely going to see play in black. All right, moving on to red. So if you notice, I'm trying to go really fast because we're not even halfway through. So, all right, for red, I feel like we finally have a good Chandra. Like, Chandra's Hope Beacon was okay. Chandra's Torch of Defiance was okay. Those were like 2 of the better Chandras. This Chandra, Spark Hunter, is really good in my opinion. So 3 in a red. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, choose up to 1 target vehicle you control. Until end of turn, it becomes an artifact creature and gains haste. There are a plethora of vehicles in this set that are going to love being paired up with Chandra. And then you can +2. You may sacrifice an artifact or discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Pay 0 to create a 3/2 colorless vehicle artifact token with crew 1. So you can be very aggressive with her. And then -7. So after 2 activations, you can protect her for 2 turns. You can -7 and get an emblem that whenever an artifact you control enters, this emblem deals 3 damage to any target. I think that's really easily doable. 2 turns, protect her for 2 turns, and then on the 3rd turn you crack off this ultimate, like, and then it's just play artifacts and lightning bolt your opponent. Like, that seems really good. You can even kill things on the board too. So I think this is going to be very played, and it's very strong. Now, as far as red uncommon common goes, I think the Marauding Mako is a really good 1-drop. It's a 1/1 for 1. Whenever you discard 1 or more cards, put that many 1/1 counters on this creature. Now think about that. If you play like Bitter Reunion or any other type of card that makes you discard multiple cards even, you're pumping the crap out of this thing. It can get big very quickly. It has cycle itself. So if you have multiple copies in late game, you draw one of these, you're like, okay, I'm going to cycle it, pump up the one on board that can attack and get in for some extra damage. I think it's a very solid common. Or, I mean, uncommon for red. Like, red needs any more help. But anyways. Moving on to green. Agnosaurus Rex is the one that I chose for green. I think this thing is going to see play, not just because it's a 5-mana 8/8 with trample, but it has cycling for 2 and a green. And when you cycle it, put 2 1/1 counters on up to 1 target creature or vehicle. It gains trample and indestructible until end of turn. The indestructible part, I think, is what really sells it. Given something trample is great, but you can attack with something and then try to kill it, and then they just go, okay, I'm going to make it indestructible. Like, that seems pretty good. Not to mention, if you drop it for on turn 5 as an 8/8, that's really good too. I think overall this card is just very solid and probably one of the better green cards. The other card I was going to choose was the new quote-unquote like Elvish Piper for artifacts. She's a 1/2 for 4 and then pay a green to tap. But I was like, very easily killable, and you got to have it stick on board for a turn. I think this just has much more impact in gameplay than she will. And then for the uncommon common, I chose Silken Strength. Now there was 3 of them I was looking at, and they all were fairly similar as far as like they were combat tricks like this one. But this one can untap the permanent, and it gives it reach with +1/+2. I think that's really good. And with a lot of the artifact removal coming in, putting this on a creature and not on a vehicle, if the creature is just a normal creature, it's probably going to stick around a lot better than with all the artifact hate that will be boarded in. I mean, I think it was disenchant destroys target enchantment and artifact. I could be wrong, but if whatever is out there that destroys artifact and or enchantments is going to be super strong in a lot of sideboards because of all of the enchantments from Duskmourn and the artifacts from this set. All right, we're hitting the home stretch. We're on to the final lap here. We're getting close, okay? I know, I'm doing horrible Aetherdrift puns, but you know what? Let's strap in. Let's get them goggles on and let's go. I got the first place goggles before they were even a thing. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. All right. So artifact. Both of these are going to be in the rare. The uncommon commons were both very just. They were not very eye-catching. So Radiant Lotus, like I feel this card is a mistake. I think it's going to be broken. I think it's going to be really good. It is 6 mana, but with tune-up, you can pop this thing into play on turn 4. I think there's a couple other ways you could even get it into play faster. I haven't really researched a ton of ways. But you sacrifice 1 or more artifacts, choose a color. Target player adds 3 mana of the chosen color for each artifact sacrificed this way. Oh boy. There are a lot of things out there that take a lot of mana, but the more mana you pump into it, the more it does. So I'm pretty sure that this card is going to do some really exciting stuff for combo decks. I'm almost positive there's going to be some kind of combo deck that really goes off with this. And so, yeah, that is definitely one of the artifacts to watch out for in this set. The other one is the Aether Spark. I mean, come on. This card's nuts, too. Like, both of these artifacts are just insane, and I want them both for my Urza Commander deck. So the Aether Spark, 4 mana. It is a legendary artifact planeswalker. And it's an equipment. This is one of those rule-breaking cards that has never been done, but as long as the Aether Spark is attached to a creature, the Aether Spark cannot be attacked, and has, whenever equipped creature deals combat damage during your turn, put that many loyalty counters on the Aether Spark. Oh boy. So let's read the abilities, right? +1. Attach the Aether Spark to up to 1 target creature you control. Put a 1/1 counter on that creature. So you're going to get 1 to 2 loyalty at minimum out of this thing with an attack if it hits, right? Because it's usually, if you put it on a 0 or a 1 power creature, it's getting +1/+1 from the counter. -5, draw 2 cards. -10, add 10 mana of any one color. Excuse me, what? 10 mana? Like, why do we have all of these things that are producing so much mana? Yeah, it's the in the right deck. This card is going to be nuts, and I don't know what it is yet. I haven't brewed or theory crafted enough to figure it out yet, but I'm working on some stuff. So, but yeah, those are the 2 artifacts to look out for. All right, moving into multicolor, I chose 2 rare mythics and 2 uncommons for this because it's multicolor and it's a little bit harder, in my opinion, to break this down to just 1 each because there's just so much to choose from. But anyways, moving on. Riptide Gearhulk was one of my first choice here. 1 mana, double white, double blue, so 5 mana total. Double strike and prowess seems really good for those colors. And whenever this creature enters, for each opponent, put up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. It's a 2/5. Technically, it's a 4/5 with double strike, but it's a 2/5, which it can get prowess, and it's got a big butt. You know, I like big butts. So it definitely has some potential in a control shell to do really well as a finisher. Not to mention to remove like a really annoying threat off of the board or a really annoying card to, you know, put it away for a while. So I feel like this card's going to be really good in a control shell. So my second choice here for multicolor was Culloden Triumph Caster. 1 red, 1 white. Yeah, this card's nuts. Like, mounts and vehicles you control have haste. Whenever a mount you control enters, it becomes saddled. Whenever a vehicle you control enters, it becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So not only does it give them haste, it makes them automatically saddled or crewed. Like, this could be nuts with some of the artifact and saddled creatures that are coming out. Like, I'm sure there's some OTJ saddled creatures that could be really good with this too in these colors. I have to go back and look. I didn't have time to before I started recording, but this guy I feel can be really good in a really aggressive shell with this build of mounts and vehicles. So be on the lookout for that guy for sure. All right, moving into the uncommon commons. Okay, before we get to the elephant in the room, which a lot of you are probably like, oh, I know which one you picked. Haha. Well, I'm not going to show it to you right now. Haunt the Network was one of my picks here. I think this could be a solid finisher in an artifact control shell. It's 3 blue and a black, costing 5 total. You choose target opponent, create 2 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. Then choose the player. Then the chosen player loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of artifacts you control. There are tons of things to make tokens, tons of things to make the artifact tokens, like clue tokens, food tokens, treasure tokens, Thopter tokens, all these different artifact tokens, right? And then just drain them with this card and come in with a finishing attack. Like, I feel like this card can be really good, even at uncommon level, in standard. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of shell that does this. All right. Last but not least, the most nuts card that's been printed in a while, in my opinion, even at uncommon, is Voyage Home. Like I talked about, there are tons of artifact tokens and things that can be generated. It costs 5 white and a blue, 7 mana. But you could, if you get it costed down enough, for a white and a blue, draw 3 cards and gain 3 life. You could literally have a like supersized recall. Like, this is nuts. Like, I'm super stoked for this card. I definitely want one for Urza. But on top of that, like, I want to find a way to make this card very good and usable in standard. And I think it's absolutely possible. Because I love drawing cards and I love not dying, so gaining life is really good. I think we're going to see a resurgence of the Might decks that were... Because one thing I was really looking at with this is playing Skrillex Hive or Skrill's Hive or whatever. Who cares? The point is the Hive. And you're churning out the little 1/1 mites, and then you're playing other things to make tokens and exhausting resources, and then using this to refill your hand and just keep... Like, you can play Glass Casket. You can play Perilous the thing we talked about in the beginning, because I can't remember the name, but perilous thing with loot on it that nobody cares about. You could play those and just be super aggressive and be able to exile things out of your way while you're just coming in for damage. I wouldn't be surprised. And it's funny because you wouldn't think that this would go in an aggressive strategy, but you're taking the damage from the hives. You're, expending resources. So this helps you refill and regain some life back. And by the time you get enough toxic on them, then you're gaining life through all your artifact creature or all the mites. So I think this could go really well in that style of deck. Not to mention a lot of other styles, but that was one that I've started theory crafting with. This is looking at something like that. So, we got through it, guys. Let's take off the victory glasses. Let's call it a win, right? Boy, there are a lot of cards coming out in this set that I feel can have a big impact. I'm not gonna lie. In the beginning, I absolutely hated this set. As far as flavor, as far as everything, it was like, really, we gonna have NASCAR as our next set? No, but really, after reviewing the set to make this video and go through it, I think there's a lot of potential. I think this is definitely better than OTJ. I think this is definitely better than, some of the other trash that's coming down the pipeline and has come out, like Innistrad Remastered. But I think it has a lot of potential. So let's really see how this goes. And I'm looking forward to, doing some drafts and making some decks and playing around with this, because I think there's a lot of fun strategies and a big shakeup coming to the standard meta. So anyways, that's what I got for you guys today. I don't want to make this any longer than it already is. Holy crap, we're at 21 minutes. Actually, by the time this is edited and comes out, it's probably like 22 or 23. But anyways, wow. Yeah. So anyways, tell me what you guys think. Do you think the cards I picked are going to be good? Do you think I picked the wrong cards? What do you think? Maybe you have a different idea of what you think is going to make an impact. Maybe there's a card you really like. I don't know. Let's comment down below. Let's have a discussion. I'd really like to hear what you guys are seeing in this set, what you're thinking about the set, all of those different things. Because, this is a community. Let's have some conversation. Let's talk, but also be respectful. Anyways, I'm going to leave you guys like I always leave you. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, stay syrupy, my friends.
Waffles in the morning, syrup sweet and slow.